Oh yeah, sorry, just driving around in my drive.
Undermine was built for speed, with roads designed for driving, which is just as well, because this kart travels much, much faster than your regular ground mounts. You can also further adjust your kart's driving characteristics. Do you prefer grip, or do you want to drift more? You want to accelerate, even if it comes at the expense of your top speed? That's up to you. You can try it all and rule the streets of Undermine, living your life 440 yards at a time.
Wow, that's like the PR hook that Blizzard used for this, or what?
Yeah, it's some blue text in the Wowhead post. I just thought it was funny. It was so RP. There's another paragraph at the top, but I didn't like it as much. But I think that describes the mount, right?
Yeah, kind of. You sounded like you know that like movie voice, like in the trailers. There's
Oh
always
yeah,
like these weird things, like in a world where or whatever. And they always say these different weird shits. But yeah, great. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're getting a car, I guess, is the point we're trying to make.
yeah. Well,
Um,
it's. I remember when dragon riding was coming, and most of us were like, "Oh, that sounds cool, but who cares?" But dragon riding ended up being such a nice thing. Like, at least for me, it's been. It doesn't really matter still, I guess, but it's much, much better than the last flying system, and I guess it allows them to create way better zones. Um, so now, when they introduce this mount, knowing how well the dragon riding went, I'm gonna guess this is gonna be good. And if it's good, it would replace the old ground mount system, I guess, in the future, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, at least that's the way I would envision it, where like there would be like you could toggle between static riding, or I don't know what it would be called, static running or static riding or whatever, versus dynamic, the same way you have with flight, right?
Yeah, drive or
Yeah,
drive or run, no? Drive or
drive or ride, or I don't know,
yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. I totally get why they're doing it. I feel like it kind of opens them up to, because like I feel like when like people have come to expect that you can fly everywhere now when there's dragon riding. You can always dragon ride everywhere, and now they try something else where you can't, and that kind of opens up for a different type of zone design. I would assume,
yeah.
which is kind of cool. Again, not really our main kind of content, I guess, but still cool. And yeah, as you said, obviously, even though it's not like, oh yeah, I play WoW because of dragon riding or sky riding, whatever it's called now. But like that has definitely been a massive positive. Like it's a lot more fun, or just a lot more engaging. I just wish it was easier to switch between the two, because the only awkward thing, I think, I assume it's not really going to be the same with this car thing, but the thing that's super awkward, I think, with the dragon riding is just like when you run out of vigor and you have to stand and wait, or
Yeah.
you have to cast for 5 seconds to get the other flight for a while or something.
It's such a. I always run out of vigor now when I'm not playing my evoker, because I always use the racial, which is dragon riding effectively. But when you start it, you get like a double space for free. So every time you play on your evoker, you just do whatever the dragon flying racial is called, and you can just not use any vigor when you're gonna fly short distances. But then when I write about on my other characters, I forget about this, right, and I just spend way too much.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a rough one. But
Uh,
I guess you'll get used to it if you stop playing on your evoker. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I think, I mean, this is gonna be hopefully fun, but it's pretty smart way of doing it, right? Because like this is even way less than like dragon riding, which they at least had to support throughout, the expansion, right? But like if this sucks, or if people don't like it, they don't have to make it ever work outside of the zone, right? But if it's a banger, then they can just make it everywhere.
yeah, yeah, I guess the same system as the dragon riding, where at first it's just specific mounts, and then if they're gonna bring it to the next expansion, they have to make it swappable.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there were a lot of cool stuff announced with this. Warcraft Direct.
Yeah. I guess this mounting was one of the least cool things in. Oh, well, it's really cool, but like at least to us, maybe not one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, what hyped you the most?
Probably just like the PV stuff as usual. Like I was pretty interested to see the dungeon pool. I didn't get super hyped by that, but I would have to say I got pretty hyped by like I guess the like the setting of the zone and of the raid and the dungeon. Like I kind of like that. The goblins and shit and like tinkers or whatever that's gonna end up being.
Yeah.
The name of the raid, Liberation of Undermine, that didn't seem so cool. If I
It's weird to abbreviate as well. Luo.
Low, yeah.
Lu.
Lou, I guess, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know that part maybe not so much, but I heard that like basically you're gonna like essentially do like a casino heist or something, right? Like the raid is like it's you go into the Gallywix's casino or something, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm not sure at all about the lore about it. I just saw how the raid looked, and I saw the image of the last boss or the Gallywix head, whatever.
Yeah.
It looked cool to me. It would be cool if it's just a casino heist as well, I guess.
Yeah. The funny thing is that I don't know why they didn't call the raid, but I heard that the casino is called the Galatio. Which I don't know, like I didn't hear anyone say anything about it, but that's so funny because one of the like most famous casinos in Las Vegas is called the Bellagio. So it's like a play on the name, and so I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty funny, but I never heard anyone like, I don't know. Obviously, that wasn't like it wasn't meant to be like a hidden pun in any way, but I felt like no one was commenting on this anywhere, but which is a bit weird. But yeah, that sounds fun. And also, I guess just getting the timeline in general, I think is good. It's like fun to sort of speculate about.
Yeah.
But I guess if we sort of talk about one thing at a time, maybe. So if we maybe start with just 11.1 and like what's gonna happen in 11.1 and like what we think about the different things. Because I think 11.07 there's nothing for us, right? There's a new zone and stuff. It's coming now soon, I think. But I mean,
well, doesn't Plunderstorm come with 07?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Like
okay.
at least on the
It's in between. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like I guess what's probably gonna end up happening, right, is like the 11.07 patch comes out, and then after a few weeks, when people get tired of that or whatever, then they've planned to put out Thunderstorm for a while to close out the patch, and then 11.1 comes out, pretty much. So that's how I think it will work. But yeah, Plunderstorm, definitely. I don't remember if we spoke about Plunderstorm last week, but yeah, it's a banger that it's coming back for sure.
Yeah, no, we actually played some because you mainly played with your fiance, right? And then you just trying to get the max reward, and then you stopped, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I started playing late because I wasn't hyped about the idea, and most people were done when I started playing. Or it wasn't that late, but people grinded hard in the beginning.
Yeah. As always.
But it was actually a lot of fun. Like, it was super fun. So I think I'm more hype about that than anything else, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they make any changes, or if it's like, I mean, it would be a little bit lazy if it's exactly the same, right? If there's no difference at all, that feels a bit lazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just want some sort of, as always, you want like a ranking system or an MMR system at least. But I don't think they're gonna do that.
Wasn't there, like, not that you could see, but wasn't there skill-based matchmaking? I think there was, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't think there was, but maybe.
I think so, but I'm not sure. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, as long as they have some new abilities or something, I'm sure it's going to be great. Like, it was, even if there's nothing new, it's still going to be fun to play it again.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Okay, but you don't have anything specific on 11.07?
No, I mean, the only thing that matters at all for us, I guess, is the new content for the Feast of the Winter Veil, right? It's a very important holiday. No, but the only thing I guess that really matters for us is the Cersei's circlet, I guess, which is the new ring, similar to
Oh,
whatever that was called from last. I don't remember what that was called, but
yeah, me neither.
the ring you got on the when you went into those, but you grinded all those keys and shit.
Yeah, yeah. I'm guessing the community sentiment is sort of where I would guess it's like you don't really care about the ring. Maybe some people like the zone. Maybe some people like the ring, but I'm gonna bet you're just gonna put it on if it's good, and then leave it on if it's good.
Yeah, but it's probably gonna
Um,
be good, right? I
yeah,
mean, I'm like, I'm expecting it to be the same way as last time, right? That feels like it's gonna be, they're gonna want people to do the content, so they're gonna make the ring good. That's how I envision this
yeah.
going, if that makes sense. But yeah, so if we move past that, I guess to the bigger news, which is 11.1.
Mm-hmm.
Get new zone as expected, the Undermine, which is like goblins and things, I guess. I don't know how to describe it.
A lot of drive mounts.
It's gonna be a lot of drive mounts running around. But it's like goblins and tinkers and engineering and all this type of things. Basically, it's like the theme of the zone, and then we have the raid Liberation of Undermine, which is just maybe casino heist. We'll see if it's the casino heist or not, but maybe. And then we also have Operation Floodgate, which is new dungeon. Notably, it's not a mega dungeon, and they haven't released a non-mega dungeon since, or like mid-expansion. That is, of course, they release it every expansion, but like mid-expansion non-mega dungeon since Seat of the Triumvirate, I think, in Legion.
Okay.
Which has to be like 5 years ago, almost at this point, something like that, maybe more.
Well, yeah. Legion was a long time ago. That's for sure. But can we give them credit for not releasing a mega dungeon if they're only planning to do 3 seasons? Is that correct?
I don't think that's confirmed, but I guess we can speculate a bit more on that later when we look at the whole timeline. But yeah, I think it seems likely that that's the case. Yeah.
So if they only do 3 seasons, doesn't it just make more sense to toss in one dungeon at a time, because they've been able to recycle the mega dungeon for 2 seasons previously, right? At least in recent history.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but I was thinking that maybe it's like more work to make 2 separate dungeons, but maybe it isn't. I'm just thinking like it's a completely different art style and everything, right? But I guess they're already making very similar assets when they're creating the zone itself, so maybe it's not that big of a thing.
Yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be different art styles either, right? We don't know what the next, because there's going to be a dungeon for next season as well. We can assume, right?
Yeah, it says so on the roadmap for 11.2, but
Okay.
I think we can assume that 11.2 isn't like Undermine 2.0. I assume it's a different thing. Otherwise, it would be very weird. So I assume that dungeon is something different, but who knows? We don't really know anything about that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there's some other stuff in the car and everything. But I mean, it's pretty standard, right? There's nothing. The only thing that's like a little bit out of the ordinary is like the dungeon not being mega dungeon, and just going straight into M+, which is fun, and then the car thing. So that's pretty cool. I guess to mention here, I guess we can mention they also spoiled or revealed or whatever you want to call it, the dungeon pool for season 2. So obviously it is Operation Floodgate, the new one, and then the remaining 4 War Within dungeons. So Cinderbroom Meadery, Dark Flame Cleft, the Rookery, and Priori of the Sacred Flame. And then, as everyone somehow predicted, even before they knew what this patch was about, it's the Motherlode, which even makes even more sense given the theme of this patch. Then there's Theater of Pain, which, I mean, okay. And then to I think no one's liking. Operation Mechagon Workshop is coming back again.
Yeah, that's insane.
I don't really like. It came
I don't
back
think
in like
I don't think I've ever looked at a set of dungeons and seen more dungeons I hate. Like, it's the first time they reintroduce a dungeon reintroduce it for the second time, right? So we played it 3 times for M+, and it's not a very well-liked dungeon either, right? Like, who wants to play Workshop?
I mean, if they wanted to go with this like theme, couldn't they have gone with Junkyard instead? Wouldn't that have been a way more liked dungeon?
I don't know.
But I guess the second part is maybe more like thematic with this than the first part. I don't know.
I think people might have played too much Junkyard uh, due to how easy it was relative to the other keys, right?
Yeah, I feel like they could have changed that now though. But I
But I
guess
feel
yeah.
like I don't really care about the theme of the patch. Like, isn't it way too soon to recycle for the second time?
I
Like, there's
mean,
a lot of dungeons you could play, and they've started introducing the older ones. I guess that's more work for them to do to introduce really old expansion dungeons, but it seems super lazy to introduce this dungeon again, and it's not even like a community favorite as far as I know.
yeah, no, I agree. I think if I would have thought about this, we could have pulled up a list of all the dungeons that have not been
Oh
reintroduced,
yeah.
like in the modern era. But we can maybe talk about that like next week or something, and we can have like a whole, we can like literally go over all of them and just see like things we would have, liked and whatever.
Yeah. I feel fairly certain that there's at least 10 dungeons they haven't reintroduced that's 6 years old-ish that would have been better.
Yeah, I mean, you have like King's Rest, which some people don't like. You have Tolda Gore, Temple of Sethralis. Um, yeah, you have a lot. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Cathedral of Eternal Night, Seat of the Triumvirate.
Oh.
Now I'm just listing the ones that people don't like, but
Yeah.
I guess that's why
Maybe
they
they
aren't
didn't
back.
have any options. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, maybe you're wrong. No, but I think most of those could actually be good. Oh, Shrine. Oh my God, Shrine of the Storm. That's like one of my all-time favorite M Plus dungeons. That one I really want to come back. Like no, no kidding here.
I think it's so polarized though. Like, I really don't like it. I know a lot of people that love it and a lot of people that hate it.
Yeah,
But yeah, maybe it's a better dungeon for sure. I just feel like there's no workshop. I can't think of a single point in a dungeon that makes me happy. Like, I don't like any of the bosses, any of the trash. I don't like the cramped environment. I don't like all the frontals and weird mechanics on the mobs. And there's MC tech if they're gonna allow that. Like, it's just such a fiesta of a dungeon.
do we think that they're gonna like make any changes to it now, or just bring it back as is?
I would guess that they're gonna bring it back as is, maybe address some sort of. They need to address the MC tech because you're just gonna stand outside the third boss again and just chain MC, and then you know how you play the bridge. But maybe if they could heavily change it, but that doesn't seem to make any sense. Then they could have just picked another dungeon and done less work, I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see, I guess, because like especially now when Priest has been meta a lot of seasons in a row, I feel like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel good if there's like a mandatory Priest dungeon again.
But don't you feel like Theater of Pain would have to be changed quite a bit as well with like the damage intake pattern? Mainly thinking about the Butcher boss, whatever it's called. The one down to the left.
Yeah, but I mean, feel like they do change the dungeons that they bring back, even the newer ones, right? Like they add like even like the dungeons from like BFA or whatever, they add mechanics to them, right? Like if you think about like mists or whatever, they completely changed a lot of things in them, right? So I don't think it's or wait, mists maybe isn't even BFA, maybe that's actually Shadowlands, but whatever. Yeah, I think they changed like these dungeons anyway, so I don't think it's yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think that they're definitely going to just go in and make the adjustments that are necessary.
Okay, but are you happy about the dungeons all in all? Like, when you look at this list, do you feel like fuck yeah, I'm gonna push some keys next season?
Well, I'm gonna push some keys, but it's not like a fist pump moment, I guess. I mean, like going over the obviously, yeah, I'm pretty. Obviously, I don't know anything about Operation Floodgate since it's new dungeon. We haven't been able to see anything, but that sounds fun. So it sounds good with new dungeon, like completely fresh. I think Cinderbrew Meadery, that seemed pretty fun doing it on M0. The Rookery, mediocre, okay. Priori of the Sacred Flame, that one seems like a banger, honestly. Then Dark Flame Cleft, that seems like all time fucking bad. Like if they
Yeah.
don't change the whole, like the running with the torch and whatever, like that's, ugh,
Yeah.
that feels really bad. Motherload is kind of a banger though. That one I kind of like. Theater of Pain, yeah, I'm okay with it. And then yeah, Workshop, not loving that, I guess. So I would say there's only two dungeons in this pool that I just like don't like, and that would be Dark Flame Cleft and Mechagon Workshop. So yeah, 75% not disliked. I guess that's okay. Maybe
Okay.
it could have been
Yeah.
worse. Let's say.
Yeah, I think I'm landing on 3 hard dislike. Like I do not want to play Theater of Pain again. I definitely don't want to play Dark Flame Cleft in this current state. And I honestly think I hate Workshop the most out of this pool. I don't want to do Workshop again. I've done it as a priest and not as a priest. And it sucks no matter what you play.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Workshop isn't. But yeah, hopefully they just make some adjustments or some touches to it, and it becomes less annoying. But we will see. I guess.
Yeah, I guess they mainly have to rework the third boss to some extent and make it so you can't mind control the chicken spawners or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Yeah, I never liked that whole part of, when you run between those bots and then you get like a bad pathing and you have to stand and wait, or you gamble it and then you get thrown back, or I never liked those weird RP things in the middle of a dungeon. It feels bad. It's kind of the same this season with City of Threads, which is why I also feel like that's one really shitty dungeon. But yeah, maybe let's not dwell too much on the dungeons either. There was one, I guess, before we also jump into like more of the like speculating about the timeline and everything. There was one more like random major announcement that I think Blizzard really wanted to have like be the huge, fist pump moment kind of thing. Which was on the end where they not so, it wasn't exactly hidden, but it wasn't like no one was talking, but they were just showing like a clip or whatever. But they announced player housing.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Do you care about this at all?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know why I care. The only comparison we have in game is garrisons, and I like the idea, or I liked garrisons to the extent where like this is sort of where you AFK. It's my place. But they didn't really let you customize or anything. But in general, I like sandbox type of games, and if I could like farm wallpaper or some sort of decoration, I think I do it to the same extent as I do with transmog. Like I think it's fun. I'd probably do the easy stuff or the really cool stuff. But I think it's very fitting in WoW as just sort of an addition to the something else you can collect, right? Like some people collect mounts, like you collect raid achievements for some reason. I think I collect transmog to some extent. And this is just another one. So I'm quite happy. I think it's gonna be it can be fun. And I just hope it works sort of like a garrison where you can pick but you can pick a place in the world. I'm gonna guess it would be predetermined, like you can choose from 10 zones or something. And then hopefully you can just build your own little city, and you can get a bank and an auction house, and you just, get your own hub. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really care about this. at all, I think. Maybe I'll change my mind when I see like all the features and stuff, but I don't really care about this, I guess. I have a feeling that if it turns out the way you said it now, where it's like, yeah, you can pick between 10 different zones or whatever, then I might just place it in the most convenient place to have an extra free Hearthstone too, you know? Because I
Yeah.
assume you're going to have like a special, like your home or player house Hearthstone or something, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it sort of like a highly customizable garrison is what I would assume. Like it's still WoW in its engine and everything, so you wouldn't be able to like free build and stuff. But I guess as with the garrisons, you can build and upgrade. You get a mage tower with portals, and you have a garrison Hearthstone, and you can, yeah. Hopefully it works like that, but it's just more developed.
Yeah, I mean,
And opt-in. Like it shouldn't have any. It's Blizzard, right? So they are gonna force you to interact with it, right? Like when they release it, you're gonna get some sort of weird power gain from doing it, so everyone tries it. But after that, it should hopefully just be something like optional collecting, right?
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you're gonna like grow a two-handed axe in your garden, and you know it's gonna be like the best in slot or something. Hopefully, at least.
No, but like weekly quest heavily tied into the development of your player housing type of thing.
Yeah, I mean that I could definitely see that I can definitely see happening. So yeah, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is something that people have asked about for 20 years, right? Like people have asked about this since WoW released initially, right? This has been a crazy big request. People thought that we were getting this at this point. Like, is it 10 years ago? 8 years ago? When did Warlords of Draenor come out? A long time ago.
Yeah.
And so people thought we would get it uh, a long time ago, and we didn't. And now we're finally like getting a commitment. Yeah, it's actually wow. Yeah, it's over 10 years ago. It was released 10 years and 6 days ago today.
Yeah.
Warlords of Draenor. So yeah, I guess you know they tried after 10 years. They weren't quite ready for it, and now they try again after 20 years. And if it doesn't work, sure as hell they're gonna try again after 30 years.
Did you play Warlords?
Not much. It was like pretty much the only expansion where I didn't really play. I mean, I leveled up and everything, and I did all the dungeons. I think I did like the raid achievements or whatever, but I just quit and didn't play for the entire expansion, pretty much.
Do you remember if you enjoyed the part, like the garrison in whatever way you engaged with it?
No, not at all. I thought like for me it was just like a quest or something. You know, I didn't. Yeah, that's not for me. I'm not interested in that.
Oh, okay. No, I liked it. I remember like trying to upgrade it, and I remember being happy to play Alliance because the Horde one was so much uglier than the Alliance one. Just like the zone and I guess the buildings, but I think a lot of people enjoyed like not Warlords of Draenor systems because there was like the introduction of the mission table and you did a bunch of weird stuff in the garrison, but just upgrading and armory, getting some transmog, and then you could like buy boxes with some garrison resource to random roll transmog or items, and if you had a lot of gold or time, you could get some sort of auction house or something in it. And as far as I can remember, I don't think people disliked the garrisons. I think they disliked other Warlords of Draenor systems that were tied into it.
I think mostly people didn't really like it just because of people actually wanted it to be player housing, and they thought this was very underwhelming, and there was no customization. Almost, you could like decide where to put these few different things, but effectively there was no customization. You couldn't really build anything the way you wanted it, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume people really what people want is basically like The Sims or something, you know, or Minecraft, or like people just want to build whatever they want in their, you know, for their own character, I think. But I don't know. I haven't really played any other game where there is player housing, so I really don't know how you can expect this to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. I don't know either. Like the more customizable, the better, right? But I'd be very surprised if you could like decide how many squares you want to build and like put up individual walls and whatever. But that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
if you're gonna do that, then it's gonna become such a that's gonna be like so much engine work, right? To allow
yeah,
that, because it's not, it's very different from how anything else works. So I feel like it's gonna come in. I mean, they can make many different things, and they can probably utilize the power of like combinatorics, if that makes sense. Whereas like
yeah,
you have a few different things, but given that you can combine them in enough ways, then it can actually be like something unique for your character or whatever, right?
yeah, and maybe just make like a lot of skins or cosmetics being unlocked in various content, right?
Yeah.
Um, so maybe it incentivizes people like you should get something for getting dualistic PvP in your player housing, and it shouldn't be. It should just be like in a different color of the wall or whatever. Um,
Yeah, but
yeah, we'll see.
yeah, sure. But or it could just be like a not a color of the wall, but that could make it maybe be like a not a painting, but like a war pelt or some shit that you can hang on your wall that somehow symbolizes the season or something, you know, or
I kind of hate myself a bit when I'm talking about this, and I actually am hyped about it because it doesn't really resonate, even though it's with myself.
but
Um,
I'm kind of expecting something like especially now, we'll get back to that, I guess, but especially if they're not doing fated and stuff, you know, maybe they'll do something like, yeah, if you get cutting edge, then you can get a portal to the raid in your player
yeah,
house or something, for example, right? That would be pretty cool.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
think there's a lot of good shit on the horizon with the war bands, and they just trying to like war bands and player housing. Um, the game could be great to play in a bit, right? Like it's sort of they have the option to make everything really, really personal in a sense because they are further developing the war bands as well, right?
yeah, they're actually adding some more features. Uh, well, already in 11.1, they're doing Warband UI updates, Warband camp collections. I don't know what that is, but doing
I have no
something.
clue either, but I think. Do you think war bands is talked about enough? Like not about the RP, but having everything actually account bound and transferable, and doesn't it feel? Oh wait, I forget you only play one warrior, basically.
Yeah, well, I have two warriors, I guess, but
Okay.
well, I mean, I guess like, well, first of all, I was pretty angry when I saw this thing that I had to heal the M0 dungeons or whatever for the dungeons and raids achievements, but that's a separate story. But yeah, I don't know. Like, if I just, I'm sure it's great if you play multiple characters, but I just don't see much of the benefit. The only thing that I don't like is that there are some things that make it so that you become more powerful on your main character by doing it on your alt character.
Yeah.
And because of the way things weirdly work out. So, for example, there was the honor grind PvP thing in the past, or in, you know, at the start of the season, where you could grind honor on store on several characters, and then transfer to your main. And then there was like what is it called, like the severed strands buff, the Nerubar
Oh yeah.
finery thing. Because of the way that the catch up works, it's better to do like some bosses on your alt or whatever. Like, it's just these small things that just annoy me a little bit about system, and I think it's important that Blizzard are super strict on this one thing, that it can never benefit your most progressed character anything that you do on your less progressed characters, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, because
Yeah.
that is horrible. Like, that feels horrible when those things happen, I think.
Yeah.
Because then you're forced to play another character that you don't necessarily want to play.
But this sort of just this happened in season 3 of Dragonflight, right?
Yeah,
Not
that
with
was
warbands,
probably
but
yeah, that was probably the worst example of that
yeah,
happening with the
yeah,
reputation. Yeah,
yeah. I definitely agree that they need to look at that very closely. But I think all in all, it's a great way, or it's a great direction for the game to move because so many people just play alts. Like the people that play this game play it a lot, and making it account bound seems to be a good way to do it. And I would guess that the player housing would be an addition to this, right? Because wouldn't you assume that it's going to be account bound or war bound, whatever they call it?
I don't know actually. Like, because I can also definitely see that people are like, "What? My Tauren is gonna sleep in the same house as my gnome here?" Or what? Like, I don't know. I could definitely see like something like it's not, people don't want it to be account wide. But maybe it would be like, you can create more than one or something if you want. I don't know.
Yeah. Just imagine going into your player housing and you can see your other 3 warband characters lying in bed.
Would that only be if they had logged out in there, or would that be true even if I logged out randomly in some other place?
No, just there. You have to log out in the bed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be cool, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think obviously we have zero idea about what type of features they're gonna put in here, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to 11.1.5?
Yeah, I think maybe there isn't. I don't know if do you think there's anything specific like. I guess we can talk a little bit about the horrific visions revisited in
Yeah,
11.
that was. People seemed hyped about that.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, you remember what the horrific visions were, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's gonna be the same idea of a system. I'm not sure if it's gonna be power related to it like it was, or if it's gonna be like cosmetic only. But I think what they mean, or I feel quite confident what they mean, is that they're gonna revisit that exact system. Maybe it's not gonna be set in the same place. I'm not sure, but
I mean, so obviously, like thematically, then the horrific visions were very strongly tied to corruption, right?
yeah,
So I don't really know. There has like for horrific visions to make any sense, there has to be some form of corruption or something corrupting the world, or like otherwise they have to completely change the theme, right? Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
they're like, I guess, but I think I leave it to them to figure out the RP stuff. I was mainly curious about, did you like the horrific visions? Like, did you find them challenging? Did you find them fun? Let's say that they are cosmetic now. Let's say they are introduced with no power gain, but you get some achievements or some transmog or whatever, and it's increasingly more difficult. Maybe it's a higher ceiling than before. Would you play them?
I don't think so. Probably not. I mean, I think they were okay, but I think they suffer from this thing where you played them because you had to, because you got the corruption resistance, right? Or was that why you played them? I don't remember. There was some reason. Yeah, it was. You got the cloak upgrades, right? I think that
Yeah.
was why you played them. Yeah, for some anyway, you had to play them for some power gain each week or whatever, and that immediately just makes it so that you just minimax how fast you can do them each week and risk and there was also some weird like you could actually fail and not be able to do it for the week or something, I think. So you have to be extra careful, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think like if this is just horrific visions coming back as they are, no player power, I don't think I'm stepping into them at all.
Okay.
Would you?
I think it would be highly dependent on what I play. If it's fun in that type of content, because I didn't play the start of that patch, and then I came back to play when you guys were on the second to last boss. So maybe I came back when you were on like the third to last boss, and started gearing. And I remember doing it on my shaman, and I needed to get a lot of help just so I didn't mess up the weekly thing, whatever it was. And that wasn't fun. And then I rerolled to hunter, and then it was a lot of fun because then you could just steamroll them, you know.
Yeah, it was a lot easier with a pet, I guess.
Yeah, I think hunters or BM hunters are notoriously good in that type of solo content.
Yeah.
But I didn't get to experience the first couple of weeks. Like I didn't play the game when it was released, you know. But the end part of it that I played, I found enjoyable on one character and not enjoyable on the other, and it was purely based on how doable it felt. Um, so yeah, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to it having power tied to it. Like I don't dislike the system compared to other ones, but I probably wouldn't play it unless the reward was something I wanted for whatever reason.
I mean, I think I heard some crazy cook. I don't know if it was on the Podyssey or whatever. I don't think it's happening or whatever. I don't think they think it's happening either. But uh, like the mention of like, what if 11.1.5 actually brings corruption back? And that's why this is here as well. You know, that because like, did you like corruption?
As pretty much all Blizzard systems, it's good by the end, horrible in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on which part of it. Did I like the first half of corruption? No, it was horrible. The second half, when you had more control and could buy them, like sure, maybe they should have had a bit more fun of effects, but having like 60% haste or crit or whatever is kind of fun too. So yeah, it's okay, I guess.
I just remember like running around as a tank having like 104% verse in combat or some shit, you know? It was just kind of weird.
Weird
But
in a bad way, or
no, I mean, it was, I guess, fun. You're just immune to damage, basically, right? Because you have like just flat, like over 50% DR only from your verse. Because that was before they started to they started to DR the secondaries in this way where they do like they do now.
yeah.
That was actually the reason why they started doing that, I guess.
I think like the corruption idea of sort of Kiss curse for power is more than the WoW community can, or any gaming community can handle. Speaking as your dad healer, I don't think I like it in that way, you know.
Yeah, so the funny thing is, I think if you would ask people, I think a lot of people would look back pretty fondly on corruption, just because like in the end you could have so much corruption and you could get so little of the downside or whatever. But like the more I think about it, I thought like corruption sucks, man. It is like so bad because like the negative effects are not fun at all. And it's even less fun to try to, because like the lower levels of the negative effects, right? You're very incentivized to always play with them just because, you know, it's theoretically better, right? And then you
Yeah,
have like a small like guy fucking running towards you, and you have to stun him and run away from him. Super annoying, and you get slowed randomly or what? I don't remember exactly what the things were, right? But that just means that you just play the entire patch with those things, and that's just boring. That's not fun at all. And honestly, were any of the powers actually that interesting? I guess the only one that was really interesting or really cool was the Ineffable Truth, which like procced CDR or something, I think. That actually made you play differently. But the other things, they just like either gave you crazy amounts of stats, or you had like what's the star thing called? The thing that,
oh yeah, it's just proc damage,
yeah, it proc like
right?
a crazy, yeah. I don't remember what that was called. And then and also Twilight Devastation, the beam from the sky. Um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but also I guess again here it would be super weird if that came out in 11.1.5, right? Like what? Because they would have to remove it in 11.2, and that would be very weird as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. It could be fun, but it's highly dependent on the effects, and I think they should have more fun, positive effects rather than strong. And the part about the negative effects I don't like is having to talk down, having to try and argue with people playing max corruption, you know, when it's clearly hindering their progression or whatever.
Yeah, that part also sucks. But yeah, but I just don't think that it's fun to. I don't think it's fun to have negative effects like that. I just don't think it's fun. Like like if you think about those effects, right? You randomly get slowed, you know, once or twice a minute. Why is that fun? Like I don't know. It's just annoying, right? I don't get like the fun part in that, you know.
I think the concept is a lot worse when there's so many players involved. I think you can get away with these sort of systems when you play single player or at least a lot less players. But when you're 20 people all having kind of different takes on corruption is worth it, corruption is not worth it, or this level is worth and that one is not, it becomes very annoying and it becomes there's a lot of frustration I think amongst people when you have to agree on what's reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
I just I don't know. I think having heard other people's opinions on it, I think actually I'm probably like in the 5 or 10% that dislikes corruption the most, probably. Like people actually seem to like it, and the more I think about it, I just think it's super stupid. Um, but yeah,
do you remember like I feel like the Sarkrat cloak was negative enough. Like I hated having to talk to people dying, and you have to sort of say like, oh yeah, but if you were actually wearing a fucking cloak, you would have lived. And then you have this sort of debate, and that's just one cloak without stamina on it, right?
yeah,
Um, it's way too much power for people to have, and it affects so many other people, especially in raid, that it I don't think it's worth it conceptually, even though it can be fun.
yeah. I just again there, I just feel like there's no reason why that cloak needs to have that negative effect of not having stamina, right?
Yeah,
I just like what does that add to the cloak? It just makes it annoying. I mean, it already. I mean, that's not really that negative, but you know, the stealing stats from other people, that's already a weird gimmick enough. Does it have to not have stamina? And especially since the not having stamina part isn't obvious, because it
yeah,
doesn't say reduces your HP or whatever. It just doesn't say plus stamina. But if you just look at the cloak in isolation, you don't see that. You don't think about that. Um, I bet it would have been different if it had stamina and it just said you take 3% more damage. Then people would have had
yeah,
a different reaction to it, right? Because then it would be very clear. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think I'm super down on those things. I don't like those at all. Those
yeah.
type of things.
I don't think we have to worry. I'd be very surprised if they reintroduced an actual similar version of corruption again. I don't think they see it as a success. I mean, they can't, right?
No idea.
Okay.
But yeah, I guess a very long spin to say that Horrific Visions revisited in some way is happening in 11.15, and we don't know what that's going to be. But yeah, I'm actually interested to see how they're going to tie that together. But we'll find out, I guess. I also don't really know about the story, so maybe this makes way more sense than I think. Um, and I guess the next expansion, Midnight, that sounds a little bit like corruption-y, voidy, right? So actually, I guess maybe that's the start of something new happening with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I guess I'm not not a story guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, me me neither.
Yeah. And then I guess from here forward on the timeline, we don't really like there are very little specifics, right? It just says like stories and quests or something, you know, doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
So we don't really know much that's happening now. But I guess what we can say is that if we look at the timeline now, it looks like 11.1 is gonna come like it's between winter and spring. So I'm assume my guess is that it's gonna like the raid is gonna release in like February or March, I guess, maybe March.
Yeah, I'd say January, February, but I don't know when winter technically stops.
I mean,
Uh,
I think these things are also on the timeline. They're never very exact, right?
yeah,
Um, but like, what would make sense, right? I mean, how far into the season are we? Like, wait, nine. This is week 9, I think. That's ending now. Of the raid, that is,
yeah,
I think, or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely we're probably like halfway or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
So
then 2.5 months would be in yeah, February, I guess.
yeah. So yeah. I mean, February. Yeah, I think February would make sense maybe for the patch, and then yeah, maybe February, maybe March for the raid or something, depending on how everything paces out.
Yeah, that's probably a good general release date. Like people have time, not Christmas, not summer. That's probably perfect. We've had a lot of raids recently that's gone close to Christmas, which is not great.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be nice. This one very easily dodges Christmas. And then we have obviously the 11.15 and 1.7 happening in between there, but then pretty much bang on the summer on the timeline, we have 11.2 with the next raid after that and season 3. I'm assuming here that if the other raid comes out in like February, let's say, then this is coming in like August or something.
Yeah, this has to come. If this comes any earlier than August, like the patch should come in August, and the raid should release like second or first week of September, because then school started for most people. Everyone's, at least from where we are, back from holiday. I really hope it doesn't release in like July or June. That'd be horrendous.
June, I think there's no way, but I guess like if they really are speeding up here, and if 11.1 comes out like earlier than we think, and it comes out like early February or something, then I could see 11.2 coming out in like late July or something. I think that could still happen.
Yeah, that'd be really bad, I think.
I mean, yeah, I think in general it's probably bad timing. I think it's a little bit nicer like after a little bit further after the summer, probably. I have pretty specific like. I think for me that would probably be good. Like, I have a pretty weird timeline this year or this coming year because I'm getting married in June, so I don't want it. I want it to be after that, which it clearly will be. Right, there's no risk, and I think the way it looks now, we're clearly gonna have cleared the previous raid at that point, so that's good. Like that doesn't interfere in any way. But then my sister is getting married, and she's getting married in Spain in the beginning of October. So I'm gonna have to go there, and I'm gonna go there for quite a while. Like going there, like sort of surrounding dates as well. So optimally for me would be if the raid was already clear prior to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it depends when it releases, I guess. But that second raid might be a bit sus for me. We'll see. I'll figure it out when it gets closer, I guess. Maybe I'll bring my laptop for out of country gaming.
But then presumably the next expansion is in the winter, like because we're not gonna get a season 4, right? Is that confirmed?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
So I mean, what they've, which is a bit weird. I mean, they've put expansion reveal right after as the next thing after 11.2, like also like late summer or whatever you would want to call it here.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what that means is, oh, because obviously we already know that it's midnight or whatever. I assume that that means like what's the new headlining feature of the expansion, yada yada, right? Like dragon riding or whatever. I don't know what was the headlining feature. Delves, I guess, for this expansion.
Yeah.
Um,
Warbands.
Warbands, yeah, true. So I guess that's what they're gonna announce there. Yes, we could have pulled this up as well, but I don't remember historically. Like, how long before the expansion releases do they usually do those things?
I don't know how much how much info we can speculate on though, because they are doing a different release cadence now, right? Like they announced they're gonna do 3 expansion that has some lore that makes sense in between them, and then it's gonna be a short expansion.
Well,
So they're sort of committing on not having the 2-year span, right?
I mean, not really, right? Because they said something like it's gonna wrap up by 2030 at least, or it was very loose terms, but effectively, I think they had to guarantee that pretty much, I guess, the last patch of the third expansion has to come out in 2030 or something, I think. But
Okay.
already given that, I mean, already given that the War Within came out in 2024, right? And if you just did a flat 2-year cycle, right? Then Midnight would have come in 2026, and The Last Titan would have come in 2028, and then you would have had whatever 2 years by 2030 or something, right? So I don't think they necessarily would have had to speed it up that much for this to be a possible timeline. But yeah, I feel like the community sentiment a lot is that, you know, that it's going to speed up a lot.
Yeah, I have heard that it's gonna be a year and a half instead of 2, but I don't know what that comes from. I thought it was some sort of statement they made.
No, I think that all backtracks back to this statement of 2030, that it's going to wrap up before 2030 or something. But so maybe people, I don't know, maybe people just thought that like that means that they want the expansion to be over before we hit 2030 or something. So then maybe that means that you need to have 18-month expansions or something to make that timeline. I don't know, you know. But I haven't really heard any confirmation about this. But I guess we'll know a lot more next year or whatever when we actually know when the next expansion releases, because then obviously that sets the tone a bit for the coming expansion after that as well.
Yeah.
But the way it seems on the timeline, right, is because they have this banner with a little house and a WoW logo or whatever, which has to be player housing, right?
It looks Hearthstone-esque to me. But Hearth, isn't that just sort of a not a chimney, but a campfire inside? What is it called? Do you know the definition of hearth?
No.
Definition. This is a sidetrack. A floor of a fireplace, the base or lower part of a furnace. But I think, yeah, I would guess that means player housing. That little banner.
Yeah, because that is basically like early winter 2025.
Yeah.
And given that they also said that player housing is coming in midnight, then it kind of feels like that's gonna be that.
It looks like a pre-patch.
Yeah, but
sort of, right?
But I don't know what, or again, early winter. What does that mean? But let's say that it means like November or something. You know, a year from now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That seems early, or like if.
Well, a pre-patch in mid-November, and then they drag out the pre-patch a bit, and they release the expansion in early January, because hopefully they're not assholes. And
Yeah,
then you landed on sort of a year and a half.
Yeah, but
expansion.
Then I feel like, okay. So if we, okay, for the sake of discussion, right? Let's guess that is the case, right? We're gonna say mid-November for this pre-patch, right? Which I don't think, you know, given the timeline here, it doesn't look like too unlikely, right? But if we work ourselves backwards from that, mid-November, and we already said maybe February or March. Let's say February to give a little bit of extra space, right? Then you're gonna have between February and November of 1 year, you're gonna have 2 full raid tiers. Usually, a raid tier is 6 months, right? Usually, I get 2 tiers per year. But now we're saying that in, I guess, like 10 months or something, depending on exactly how, 10 or 9 or 10 months, depending on how we twist and turn here, I guess. We're gonna do 2 tiers. So I guess both of the tiers are just gonna be shortened, I guess. I mean, it's not impossible, for sure.
Yeah. It sounds very tight when you put it like that. But I mean, they're sort of locked though, right? If they're not going to come up with something new, if they're only going to have three seasons, they need to release the expansion early 2026, right? And if they're not going to release it early 2026, they need to fill out the months with something. There's no way they're going to do like a Hellfire Citadel 9, 10, 11, 12 months of farm, whatever. But like at some point, it has to not be worth to do a season 4. Because that surely involves a lot of work as well, right? Even though that recycled season has to be out for quite a bit for it to be worth the time, right? Like they can't release it for a month and a half and then go, or two, or
No,
whatever.
yeah, I agree. But what doesn't make sense to me is that wouldn't or like so if we put it this way, if this little banner thing wasn't there, indicating which it may not be true, but pretty strongly I think indicates player housing. If that little banner wasn't there, then the timeline very easily could have been that 11.2 comes out 6 months after 11.1, and the expansion or even the pre-patch comes out 6 months after 11.2, and we still get like a expansion in like March or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or April or whatever. But now, just because this banner is here, that really, really crams the space for when the expansion can come out.
But maybe it doesn't mean player housing then. Maybe it means something else.
Okay, so the thing is that banner didn't look like that initially. They updated the banner graphic from the initial post.
Oh, okay. What was the initial post?
Are you looking? Wait, I'm actually not sure. Did I send you anything? Which one are you looking
No.
at? Are you looking at the most recently updated one?
No clue. I'm on WoW head. It's triangle stone with a yellow triangle-ish mark within it.
Okay. But you have the
I
one with
sent
the
it to you on
house.
Discord.
Yeah, but you have the one with the house, right?
Oh wait, I sent it in the wrong channel.
Yeah.
It's not a house on it. It's well, I wouldn't say it's a house. It's a Hearthstone
yeah,
stone.
you are okay. You are looking at the initial one. You're okay. There is a new updated one,
Oh,
uh,
okay.
which is maybe gonna make more sense. Why I was pretty sure that it's the player housing. If you look at this one,
Oh yeah, that looks like a house.
that's a house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that because the one that you sent now, that was the initial one that had like a weird Hearthstone-ish symbol. But this one is a bit more clear. I think that it is player housing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then it is player housing, and they've said it's going to be for midnight. That sort of guarantees it's a pre-patch, no?
I mean, otherwise, how could they say that it's for midnight if it's not? If this isn't the pre-patch, right? There's to be fair, there's no way that is the expansion. There's no fucking way. That then they would have also said it, I guess, if it was the expansion.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they come up with something new. Maybe they have a new take for a season 4 where it's one we can't figure out. Maybe they have a way of making it so you can play 3 months after that house or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Here's a take, I guess. Imagine that the pre-patch is 3 months now because it's like, a lot of things that they test on the beta, they can test like the quests or whatever, the new zones. But when they introduce like new systems and stuff in the expansion, sometimes things break or whatever. But imagine that they put like all the systems and everything that they pushed it to live already like 3 months earlier. And so, for example, I don't know, like if they brought this car forward and they put all the new mounts on the car, and you can use it anywhere or whatever the new system. And I'm sure there's some new expansion feature maybe or something, Imagine that all those things come out with a pre-patch, and the pre-patch is live for quite a long time before the new expansion is live. How would that be?
I don't know. I guess it depends on if it's a new season or not, because I guess what they fulfill with having a new season is that there's a new arena season, there's a new M plus season to grind, there's new gear from raid to get. So I don't know. Would you imagine that they didn't have new content or new power level? How do you even say it?
I mean, they would have to,
a new season.
That would have to be the new version of season 4 somehow, right?
Yeah.
But that just
maybe.
seems weird. I don't know.
I don't know how much they want to kill the hype about the new systems and such. I guess that they're technically available on PTR and whatever, but most people don't really play that, right? It sounds clever from their perspective if they can still keep their players and just, I guess, effectively beta test their game on retail. But I don't really see a way around introducing a new season if they're gonna delay the patch, because it will brick the entire. Otherwise, imagine they introduce a bunch of new stuff. Wouldn't that just, I don't know, invalidate the entire season so far for everything except raid?
Yeah, I mean they already do this like with the mid-season patches, but this would completely brick everything if you know you
An
get
end
like
season patch.
yeah, yeah, it would be super weird. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting year for World of Warcraft. Like if because like I'm super happy if the raids are quickly paced. You know, if we get like a February into July into you know now we're getting a new expansion. You know that kind of thing. That would be super cool. But I mean more content. That's good. I like that. But
I think they could get away with like a season 3.5 sort of. Okay, we have 2 months. Let's not recycle the raids, but let's toss you in like Molten Core or whatever. Have some people try and tune it decently, but not too hard, right? And maybe have a new M plus season, but it's just 4 dungeons, and for PvP, I guess it's just shorter. But I mean, there are stuff they could do to sort of, because the problem with season 4 now, I think, is that they're trying to address it as like a real season. And Raid doesn't really take it as such, right? Like you don't care about your progression or your world rank on season 4. But in M plus and PvP, you still do. But you can't really cut that time in half and still have that much content, especially in M plus. So what would there are things they could do, you know?
yeah. The thing the hardest because I think M plus and PvP is pretty easy, right? Because those aren't really bound to whatever's happening in the game in general, right? They can just be whatever the fuck, you know. But they have to come up with a way to not make raid suck fucking ass, right? Which it always has in season 4. It's always been absolutely miserable, I think.
I think they just need to make new. They have to stop rotating the raids, because that's just horrible. And imagine you haven't really played every tier of the expansion, even though it's gutted versions of the raid. It's annoying that it rotates every week. I don't really understand why they don't just pick an old raid, try and make it decent-ish, and have that raid drop whatever gear you want. You can recycle the gear, I don't really care, but the raid has to be static. The rotating thing, in my opinion, is horrible.
Yeah, that's super annoying.
The difficulty doesn't really matter too much. Imagine if they just reintroduce some sort of fun raid, like, oh, we're gonna do Antaurus. And you just have Antaurus that's sort of in between heroic and mythic difficulty, I guess. Like you can run through it in. Maybe you don't kill Argus first week, but second week, or maybe you kill it first week, but really late, or something. Sort of like how. Fated has been now, or season 4 has been, where it's difficult in the beginning when you don't have gear. But wouldn't it just be more fun if it was a completely different raid?
It would definitely be more fun if it was a different raid. But then the thing is, like, if they tune it like that, you're almost gonna feel like, couldn't they just made it a little bit harder so that it took 4 weeks? You know.
But they could do that as well. I feel like they have the option, or they could do a new mini raid, whatever is the most reasonable amount of resources they want to commit to it, right? But the raiding, predominantly the cycling of raids, but raiding the recent raids is not fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think there's also one weird problem I think that pops up in a situation like this. So if we assume now that really regardless of if they're gonna squeeze in a season 4 3.5 whatever or not, but if we just work on this assumption that seems very likely that the raids are gonna go from 6 months down to maybe 4.5 or something, or 5, I don't know.
Yeah.
If we work under that assumption, because it's been this like 6 months, it's been like that for a long time, right? So isn't that gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna get screwed by that, because so guilds like our guilds, right, we clear it in the first like month or two or whatever, you know, first 2 months, I guess. And so for us, it doesn't matter that much because we still have a lot of like farm time or whatever. But if you play in a guild that I guess competes in like race to world last or whatever they call it, um, or you usually just barely scrape by and get cutting edge, doesn't that now mean that you never get to finish a raid again? Unless they,
Maybe,
unless they nerf or give this stacking buff or whatever, or basically force it, right?
yeah, I was gonna say maybe the ICC buff sort of solves that issue. Maybe
Yeah,
they feel like they can make it so those guilds can finish 2 months earlier.
but maybe, but isn't that also like, I mean, then there are new guilds that are just on the edge, but I guess they were never the guilds that were quote unquote used to getting cutting edge, so maybe that's okay then. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I
Um,
don't know. I wouldn't guess that the increased pacing that they would consider that so much. They could just nerf the raid more aggressively by the end, or have the ICC buff or something. I think the biggest problem surely must be their own workload, right? Because Blizzard has been very good with borrowing time from nowhere.
yeah.
Um, and I don't see how they can sustain being this much quicker when they haven't been able to be on a much slower track in the past.
Yeah, and especially now when we've seen so many crazy bugs recently, right? You get a little
Yeah.
bit worried when you see this.
But I do think, okay, what about this season 4? They just wouldn't it be perfect if they made a 10-man raid for season 4?
A new 10-man raid or a rehashed?
Like, it can be rehashed. Just make it mythic 10-man. Most guilds will probably have like you can have the people that are not interested in a 10-man raid or in M plus not play the season or play a lot less. And the people that are super hyped for 10-man can play season 4.
I mean,
And the dedicated guilds can just run 2 groups.
that's gonna be so fun, but it's gonna be so. I mean, can you imagine when you're in your guild's second best group not with the real tanks and stuff, and oh, I
But they
hope.
could sort of address it. They can make it solo tankable and 2 healable, and they could tune it to a way where you can run it with a regular mythic roster, right?
So you mean you basically would split down the. You would be able to split your roster straight in half. That's what you mean, basically.
Yeah, so you just split 2 for 14 sort of into 1 to 7, and you just run a 10-man.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be perfect, because you could raid and get M plus gear, and I could just not play the game, and we'd both be happy.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is though that if your guild decides to, I mean, I guess the thing is would be like guilds would ask, and then it becomes really awkward if you have like 17 people who want to do this, and you have 5
Yeah.
people who don't want to do this, and then the 5 people are either going to get forced to do it, or 7 people aren't going to get to play.
But like in a season 4 type of situation, and now you can like guilds and realms and factions are a lot more flexible. Like I'd assume people would know other people from another guild that are 13 or 15, and I think it will surely be awkward for some people, but I think that could be a cook for season 4, because that spices up the raiding by itself, right? You're just doing 10-man for no reason, and they just make it decently hard, but everyone will make it by the end of the season.
I mean, when you said 10-man mythic, I envisioned that again, like, you know, a world rank 50 guild would still take more than a month or something to clear it. I don't know if that was what you had in mind, or if it was going to be way easier than that.
I don't know. I think I'd be disappointed if I didn't kill the raid in the first or as the second week, I guess.
Okay, so then it's very, very easy. Then it's like, heroic plus kind of thing, or
Yeah. But maybe you could make it hard, because I think 10-man is going to be easier to cheese with comp, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you actually care about the progression rate, you could probably just play 5 mages or something.
I mean, can you imagine though if 10 man comes in the current state, and you're a class with a without or with a weak raid buff, you're not playing, you know. I mean, I think even things like even Warlock, right? Unless you need a gateway, Warlock is out. Because you even in 10 man, I think it's very hard to say that yeah, I'm not bringing arcane intellect. That's not
But
happening, right?
they could sort of cook this in some way. Like they can involve Chromie or some RP, and you just zone in and you have all the raid buffs no matter what, or you have no raid buffs no matter what.
I think that kind of would have to be that would kind of have to be the thing. Otherwise, it would probably be way too weird.
Like they wouldn't have to make it so serious, I guess. Could just try and make it a fun season.
Yeah. But I think this is probably a lot more work now than regular season 4 even. So I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah, for sure gonna be interesting. I was set on them having a year and a half expansion cadence, and I thought that the new expansion was gonna come instead of a season 4. That was my gut feeling, or what I just thought I'd heard.
Okay, so War Within released in August, right? Or end of August.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do not 18 months, like 1.5 year cadence from there, I mean, yeah, that basically means like a February release or something, right? Of the expansion. So yeah, I mean, it's not impossible.
I think they kind of have to. I mean, they've borrowed time from several past expansions to make the future expansions doable within time. So I feel like now they just send
We're
3
finally
expansions.
getting the payback now, is what you're saying.
Yeah. 2 expansions is going to be 18 months. Perfect. 3 seasons, no season 4. Just a bit less bugs than this tier would be great, but yeah, I think that'd be good. I'm staying optimistic that they're not gonna do some 2-year season 4 type of shenanigans again.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we don't have the 2026 roadmap, but it would be horrendous now if the 2026 roadmap comes out and it starts off with the season 4 and it's like a long stretch and somehow player housing is already out or whatever.
But I guess what we haven't discussed it, like if they're gonna do a season 4, they could just also plan on making real tiers, no? I mean, this house icon throws everything off, right? Because they said it's gonna be in midnight and whatever, but there could be a new season 4 as well, right? There could be a 4th tier for the season. But from my understanding, that wasn't the plan.
Yeah, no, I don't think that seems unlikely. I mean, because if anything, they wanted to make it shorter, right?
Yeah, I thought so.
So, I mean, if they're gonna all of a sudden make 4 real raid tiers, now we're basically making it longer, right? So that seems crazy. But yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing is, if there wasn't this weird flag thing with the housing on the roadmap, then then we could actually have had. Then you could interpret this to basically mean that there's nothing changing, right?
Yeah.
But now, just because of that, it completely throws everything off. So
I wonder why they did it like that. Are they trying to be ambiguous or sort of teasing, or do you think they're sort of looking out for themselves and not fully announcing something? Like, what's the reason for not putting a rough estimate of the expansion release?
Well, because this is
or whatever is going to happen in winter.
Because this is the 2025 roadmap, and the expansion is obviously not 2025. So I guess that's why.
Yeah, but there's still like half of the winter tab left in 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, yeah, this is like the first, like there's like dividers between each of the things, and this is like really hugging the start of the divider going into winter, right? So they have the whole season left there. But to be fair, half of winter is in each year in these things, right? we have winter on the other side as well, right? So
Yeah, but that's taking up more than half of the winter.
yeah. Yeah, I also don't think maybe this is like, according to scale or whatever, or you shouldn't probably count
Mm.
the pixels here.
Okay.
But yeah, but I mean, it is pretty clear. Like if you look at like how close the other thing is to the left of the picture and how close the flag is to the right of the picture, there's definitely more room randomly seemingly open there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be extremely interesting year for WoW. Interesting to see if we actually get these things faster. And I think as soon as we know when the 11.1 patch is actually going to come out, then we can make a lot better guesses, right? Because then we can say, well, if it was 5 months this tier, then it's probably going to be 5 months again or whatever, right? And we can sort of extrapolate a little bit and sort of think about, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, then we can do more pointless speculating, which is actually a lot of fun.
Actually, one thing I thought about now that I saw, and maybe I'm reading into this too much now, but do you see on 11.2.5, it says 21st anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like early autumn, so that's a bit weird. Because first of all, obviously this year, because of it's the 20-year anniversary, then like the how would you say it, like the celebration, in-game celebration or whatever, is much longer, right? It's usually not this long.
Mhm.
It's like on the standard years it's only like 2 weeks or something, I think. And those weeks always overlap the actual release date, right?
Yeah, sort
Uh,
of.
and World of Warcraft released in November in 2004,
Okay.
which indicates that 11.2.5 will be, will contain November, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Which completely throws off what we were saying before a little bit, because
Yeah, maybe we need to ask them about how they define the seasons.
because I feel like that seems a bit off when you think about it this way.
Oh my god, look at how long the winter is for 2025. Like the first winter.
Yeah, I mean it goes all the way down to like
Yeah, that's like a third of the year in their terms.
it's crazy.
Yeah, maybe we can't read into this to scale.
Yeah, no,
But
because
yeah, you're right. If
like
the anniversary is that late, then it looks like. Then I guess 11.2.7 could. Late autumn for them could be through December.
yeah, but it kind of has to be, because there's literally nothing on this entire thing except for the 21st anniversary that we actually know specifically which date it is, right?
Yeah.
But that one we know, like that one can't. The anniversary can't be on a different day than in November, right? That's a set day. And so if that's the case, then because like this could even mean, even though there's no year break here, it could mean that this player housing icon is in January or something, right? That could be a
Yeah.
thing. Or it could be like super late December or something. That's also possible.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah, I
obviously
agree.
changes the timeline a bit more. That makes it a little bit less speeded up, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see with the future roadmaps or announcements.
Yeah.
Let's just hope for some quick and nice releases.
Yeah. Let's hope for that.
I had something else I wanted to ask you about. If you
Yeah.
do you feel like we're done with the patches, with the roadmap?
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that at this point. So yeah. What else did you
Yeah,
have in mind?
so a couple of weeks ago they announced some race tuning,
Yeah.
and that got me sort of nostalgia, or I got super hyped out of nowhere for the idea, or them saying that you're gonna tune up underperforming races.
Yeah.
And specifically, I really hope that like Draenei becomes a lot better than I hope they keep iterating on it. But the point being that I remember in Cat or Wrath or whenever this got introduced, and then throughout the years when we were younger and playing the game, I was always so hyped to race change or faction change, and it is such a fun thing, even though it's a horrible system where I have to give Blizzard my money. I do really like faction changing and race changing to new and hype racials, depending on what the content is. Do you feel the same? Because I know you've race changed quite a bit as well, but do you actually like it? Like, do you? Because I know the feeling of like logging in and my priest is a different race, and it just feels so good when you've wanted to do the change for a bit.
I don't know. I don't think I like it that much. Especially not when, especially since I have this weird thing where I refuse to play Alliance as well. And especially now when Night Elf and whatever Dwarf, I guess, are the ones that have been OP.
Yeah.
That has been annoying. Looking at the leaderboards, I've been like the only Horde warrior in the 0.1 cutoff for like several seasons in a row. And yeah, I don't know. I don't like that. I think the racial should just be cosmetic. I think I would be, honestly, I would be happy if they just took away all the in combat player power from them. Honestly, I feel like that's just annoying.
I do kind of agree with that, but I think I think my judgment is a bit clouded from just being younger and not being able to race change and stuff. And it felt like such a big thing when you could finally do it. And I think faction change also, because then I could play with different friends, right? Like I always had some friends on the line, some friends on Horde, and you had to swap in between from like year to year or expansion to expansion or character to character, and then I don't know. I just get so hyped to swap up some races because I've been playing Elf and Dwarf and the Goblin for years now, you know. Either like the best PvP or the best M plus or the best raid, and they've been the same for so long. And I just got hyped of the idea to play like Draenei or Worgen or something ridiculous and it be good, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, then I would much rather it just be like, yeah, I'm swapping to Worgen now because I have a fun transmog idea, or because they look funny when they hit stuff or something,
Yeah,
rather
but that's
than
yeah.
yeah, you know, rather than oh yeah, Worgen does 0.1% more damage, so I'm gonna go Worgen, you know.
But that's why I race changed before. I remember swapping, like I swapped my warrior to Worgen because I just wanted to have that like flip animation or whatever they had when they were swinging. And then like 2 years later, you're kind of feeling like, oh yeah, I should probably play Undead or something. It looks so cool. I have this transmog idea, and you just, I guess you had the freedom to swap races a bit more on which animations you liked when you tried less hard at being competitive in the game. But the solution to this would just to make more races competitive to where you wouldn't just have to play the best race, sort of.
Yeah, but I think the way to do that is to just remove Shadow Meld and Stone Form from competitive content, right? Those are the two like big outliers in PvE at least.
Yeah, in raid there's some big outliers as well, depending on what you play.
Yeah, like Goblin
Like
Jump and stuff, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, Goblin is kind of, you can substitute Void Elf, I guess, and Void Elf's getting buffed, which is good. But yeah, in M plus it's been very static. In PvP it's been even more static for even longer. I guess raid can photon change a bit just based on what's good, but I think I just want everything to be sort of even, and then having some sort of choice or being sort of pivoted in different choices from year to year, because I feel like since they already have this system in place, I don't think they're incentivized to remove it, right? They actually make money from people just changing their race. And they should just have way more competitive. Like they actually, by doing these tuning passes, they actually make money, right?
Probably, yeah, because yeah, people probably swap from it, yeah. Probably see like a surge in changes. But
Um,
I don't know. I feel like probably, at least for me, I would probably swap more if they just made older, like even if they still had the same like damage things, because I feel like the damage things aren't really that impactful, right? They don't matter that much. But if they just removed the weird gimmicky ones that are just OP, that would help a lot, I guess.
yeah, it's been more utility recently than damage. Like, how many people went Mecha Gnome for DPS or just Gnome for freedom on Ansrac this tier?
Yeah, but Gnome for freedom, that makes sense. That was actually a thing. But Mecha Gnome for damage, that doesn't matter. I don't
Yeah,
think.
but a lot of people did go Mecha
Yeah,
Gnome.
I know a lot of people did, but that, I'm telling you, man, that didn't save you a single pull on any boss, you know.
Yeah, but isn't that the sweet spot then on the ratios, that they do something on the meter or whatever, and people can swap if they want, but don't have to feel bad if they don't swap?
Yeah, but that's what I'm kind of saying. Like the damage part, I'm fine with because they're all within like almost nothing anyway, so I don't care about that. But I don't want. I feel like the non-damage ratios are the ones that are egregious and that really lead to race imbalance. I don't think it's the damage ones. I don't think matter, but like the gnome one being that OP on queen, if you couldn't break it yourself, or shadow meld or whatever, like these different things, those are the problems rather than the numbers
Yeah,
themselves. And all the tuning now was only for the numbers,
yeah,
which doesn't change anything for me personally.
yeah. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I didn't really have a point with this. I was just hyped about the idea of playing races that hasn't been viable in a while, and I don't think this patch does it. It didn't seem to like make something broken again.
Yeah.
But there were also some rumors about a new allied race or something in this coming patch. I don't know if you saw that, but there were some data
No.
mining of being able to customize like some, I can't remember what they're called, but some troll/elf type of model. So maybe that's a banger.
Yeah, that I did not hear about at all, but that sounds pretty cool. Always fun if there's new animations.
Yeah, I sadly think it's going to be like a night elf looking troll model, or vice versa, was what I saw at least.
Okay, but I mean, that could maybe be cool. But that sounds almost like Sandalari troll or something. Oh, whatever. We'll see.
Yeah.
That might be cool. I thought about one funny anecdote. Do you remember? There was like I don't know. This maybe like 5 years ago, 8 years ago. I don't know. 10 years ago. Nah, not 10 years ago. 5 to 8 years ago, maybe. Um, there was like a post on the WoW Reddit, and it was just titled "What's your least favorite race?" But then a lot of people just saw it on the Reddit front page, and all the comments were just like, "Oh my god, my heart dropped! I thought this was Ask Reddit or something." Because people just thought it was like not mentioning World of Warcraft races, because obviously it didn't say
Okay.
in the title. That was just a really funny Reddit post, where like and because it also then became pretty big because of this. So then it started
Yeah.
popping up, I think, for more other people who aren't really even in the WoW community in general and stuff, and it's like snowballed from there. That was just really funny. Really funny misunderstanding, I guess.
We have some vague memories about that, but because that really blew up, right? And people were kind of offended by some of the answers because it wasn't only WoW players answering.
Yeah, yeah, maybe it wasn't. I don't remember. I just remember the whole funny thing about the post blowing up. I don't actually remember any of the answers other than the answers of people saying, "Oh my god, I thought this was Ask Reddit." But maybe there
Oh,
were
okay.
more to it. But yeah, it was pretty all around pretty funny thing that happened. Like misunderstandings will always be funny, I guess.
Amen.
All right, yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else? I think I exhausted all my things that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it's the everlasting question. How do you end a podcast?